chronic stress for any length of time, clearly for any length of time, and in severe secretions of cortisol actually can be extremely damaging. It can cause cancer, it can cause high blood pressure, it can cause all sorts of physical problems, so it manifests itself. So if we are exposed to too much stress for too long, that is very bad for our health, and really we need to do something about it.
What do you mean? Bad for our minds, bad for our brains?
Here we go, trying to actually separate the two. It's very bad for the brain, because what happens with cortisol secretions is when they're in abundance, they actually control other neurotransmitters, including the feel-good neurotransmitters. So when cortisol is up, dopamine, the motivation, reward chemical, is down. Serotonin, the happy chappy, all about mood, sleep, appetite, emotion, is down. So we're grotty, we don't eat properly, we eat too much, we don't eat enough, we don't sleep properly, and so on and so forth, and we're not motivated. So cortisol secretions like that will definitely affect the brain adversely for any length of time. With the mind, it will interfere with thought processes and can exacerbate things like our perception of pain, those are the sorts of things that the attitudes and beliefs would come from the mind, we think.
So how important is it to keep control, to be disciplined about our thinking, in other words, using our mind or our brain? And I'm also thinking about keeping the monkeys in their cages. You know that expression?
Yes.
About if you let the monkeys out of your cage, you're thinking many different things. Exactly, all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you do that? How important is it to control your mind? Or is it your brain you're controlling?
Well, it is the brain. Let's talk in terms of the brain. The brain we can control more than we realise. People think that, oh, I'm always do that. I always respond like that. If you've got two directors who are at each other's throats in the boardroom, and one's not listening to the other, there's an habitual response going on, a codependency going on, which is very damaging for the business, and it's very damaging for their relationship. It's just not worth doing. But we can control that. We can control that by identifying, sitting quietly and identifying to ourselves, well, okay, what are the habitual responses that are no longer serving me? What is it that I'm doing that actually is pretty fruitless? So then you start thinking, okay, I've identified that, and then you can control it once you've identified it. So you can control an awful lot. An awful lot you can't control. Initial responses, if somebody threatens you, of course you don't want to control that. You want to work real fast and get out of the way. But most of the time we have more control than we realise.
We are, Lynda, an ageing society. Is there good ways to keep the brain young and sharp? Some people say do crosswords, do Sudoku, puzzles, that kind of thing. Do they work? Is that a fact, or is that a fiction?
Sudoku, crossword puzzles are great if that's what you're used to doing, but in actual fact what you're doing is training the brain to do Sudoku and crosswords. Right. Okay. The research now shows that if you especially do something that is sociable, that is physical, and mentally stretches you, that three combination is fantastic. So if you're just going for a walk or to the gym, that's great. Absolutely magnificent. If you belong to a social group and you're not isolated, great, absolutely fantastic. If you're learning something that's taxing, like a new language or music, or if you're musical in a more difficult piece of music, fantastic. If you combine them, oh my, it is wonderful. So for instance, if you belong to a dancing club, you are in a social group, you are also physically moving and you're learning a new dance routine or new steps, you've got it.
You've got the balance right, yeah.
If you are learning a new kata in karate, you've done it, you've ticked 3 boxes.
And you should keep embracing change because you're renewing your brain or your mind?
Absolutely. The neural path, you will lay down new neural pathways in the brain regardless of age, okay? So that's essential that we keep doing that.
What part do dreams play in keeping the brain or the mind clear?
Extremely huge. People underestimate sleeping so much. It's incredible. There are 5 stages to sleep, 2 of which are dreaming. But the point is that when we get into deep sleep, what we're doing is we are flushing out toxins in the brain, some of which are associated with Alzheimer's disease. So it's very important we go through a deep, a proper sleep cycle, which takes approximately 60 to 90 minutes, and 3 or 4 times a night is ideal. So if to go through those cycles is actually incredibly useful for the brain and keeping it healthy. And of course, dreams consolidate memories from the day and do a bit of housekeeping. So all very valuable.